You ever wonder how some real estate agents get literally millions of views and closings off of YouTube? Spoiler alert, it's not luck, it's strategy. On this episode of Collaborate with Cole, I'm going to sit down with the one and only Kristina Smallhorn. She's a YouTube queen, viral video expert, and a real estate rock star. She's breaking down how to build your perfect avatar, and this is critical. And here's a cool part for you and me. She's even building mine live on the show today. So if you've ever been stuck wondering where to start with video or maybe how to attract your ideal client, this episode is going to hand you the blueprint that you need. There's no fluff. This is all action. Let's go collaborate. Kristina, welcome to the show. Are you ready to collaborate with Cole?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's make it
Let's
happen.
do it. I'm super excited. All right, we got to frame this first though. I mean, we're sitting here together because I say together, you're in, I think, Louisiana, right?
Yes, I'm in
So you're in Louisiana.
for now.
Okay, for now. I'm in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. But nonetheless, we're sitting here together because you absolutely crushed it on stage at the RevB conference. I was in attendance. I've got like 48 pages of notes, but the way you broke down your approach or your strategy, if you will, with YouTube was just absolutely mind blowing. I heard things that were like, I mean, there's got to be 78 light bulbs that probably went off as I'm just listening to you. And then your delivery was, very simplistic, very matter of fact, it was just really easy to follow. You made it really easy to understand how to do what we're going to talk about today. And I know our friends listening, or I know they're going to have an executable action plan like as soon as they hit stop on this interview, which I'm really excited about.
Yay!
Yeah. Before we get tactical though, let's rewind real quick to the beginning, because I know there's someone listening right now who's still kind of stuck on that starting line, if you will. So help them understand, what was your very first video like? Maybe what do you wish you would have known then that you know now as it relates to your first video?
Well, my very first video was like, I was just doing home tours, but I was doing it for an out of town client. They were living in Colorado. So I was just using, I don't know if you remember flip cameras, but I'm talking way back when, where you would inject the flip camera into your computer and you would wait 7 days before it uploaded to YouTube.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, like at that time, nobody really knew what they were doing anyway. So I don't regret anything like that. But I think when I was getting, like, when I decided to move from making videos on Facebook to YouTube, there was a huge learning curve. YouTube, at that time, Facebook was really easy. It was right before the pay to play business pages.
Okay.
So I put my listing videos out there. They were goofy. They were like sketch type things, so that I would do that because it would make it more shareable. And then, I had been doing that for a good year and a half, 2 years. And then all of a sudden they made it a pay to play. They had those the boost button, remember?
I remember the boost button. Yeah.
The boost
Wow.
button. And I'm like, I'm not paying people to watch these stupid, goofy listing videos. That's stupid. And of course, right after that, the views tanked, and I was like, I got to find a better way. And so I was like looking at Instagram, and I was like, no, my videos are too long. I was looking at LinkedIn. You couldn't even post to LinkedIn videos at that time.
I'm gonna say, I don't think you could. Yeah.
No, you couldn't. And then like, how can I get this out here? Then I was like, oh, well, I could blog it. And because the blogs would be easier to share and I could upload videos that way. So I started writing a blog, and then I would host my videos on YouTube. And then I started getting into more of like, well, how does somebody go viral on YouTube? What's the whole thing there? How do people find it? So I went down that whole like rabbit hole of, all the YouTube education that was out at that time. It's gotten a lot better than when I first started. But I was like, if some punk kid can sit there and play video games in his pajamas and not wash for 3 days and make $1 million a year playing videos, I can do it. I got to do better than this, like it's got to work. And I'm not paying people to watch it. I'd rather get paid to watch it. So yeah, I was just kind of doing that digital mayor thing. I wish I could have told myself, because I spent a lot lot of time trying to get companies in the area to allow me to film their business and do it for free. It was like, they were like, well, what's in it for you? I'm like, exposure. And they couldn't wrap
They
their head
didn't
around it.
comprehend that.
No, they kept thinking that I wanted there was, like, some hidden agenda to that. Yeah, so, I wish I would have told myself not to do that. That was a big, big waste of time. That works on other platforms, it does not work on YouTube. That was dumb.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, none the point being is that you fumbled through this in the very beginning, right? I mean,
Yeah,
it didn't come off the press like perfectly edited and just the most beautiful thing in the world, right?
absolutely not. No, matter of fact, my first talk was, how I failed my way to 100,000 subscribers, and I talked all
How
about.
you failed your way to 100,000 subscribers.
Yes.
Okay. So
Yeah,
it's like
'cause
learn from my mistakes
yeah,
kind of thing.
like, these are all the things I did wrong, and this is how I got where I could get because 'cause I've made
Yeah.
all these mistakes, don't do what I did. And a
Yeah.
lot of it came from, like, educators. A lot of the stuff that I learned from YouTube educators in the real estate space was
Yeah.
such wrong information because they were just regurgitating what they heard
No,
somebody else
really?
say. Yeah, absolutely. Like, honestly, the worst information I've ever gotten was from other real estate agents in the YouTube space.
Oh my gosh. How funny is that? How
It's
funny is
gotten
that?
better. It's gotten way
Yeah.
better than it used to be.
Yeah. Well, so and thank you for sharing that. I mean, I just the main thing is I want all of us to know that you didn't start out with a gazillion subscribers and a gazillion videos and just, the thing that you're doing now. I mean, we all have to just take that first initial step, right? The map will appear when the car is in motion. Like you got to take that first step, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So the there's several things that I wrote down from your keynote at RevB, but the main thing that really grabbed me, which I think is probably where we need to start with video, not even YouTube, like any video that we're doing, whether our platform of choice is Facebook or Instagram or TikTok or YouTube, whatever. But the thing that you really talked about that stuck with me was building your avatar.
Right.
That was kind of new terminology, for me at the time. After hearing you speak for a few minutes, I'm like, okay, the avatar, that means that. I know what an avatar is, but the way that, you presented it was just kind of a little bit of a mind shift. But essentially, your avatar is your ideal client. Would that
Mhm.
be correct? Right. I mean, that's basically what you
Basically, it
shared.
comes down to that. I would say that anybody that's trying to figure out who their ideal avatar is or their client is, before you make up this person in your brain, you have to really kind of sit down and have a little come to Jesus meeting with yourself and list all the things that you hate doing in real estate. Like you hate working with rentals, you hate working with, like whatever those things
Mm,
are. And then you make another list of all the things that you love in real estate and you start whittling that down to your most favorite things, right? And then sure enough, you're going to have something that is the cream of the crop. A lot of people already know what their favorite thing to do is. Um, some people love working with clients that have lakefront properties. Some people love working with clients that are over 55. They already have that ideal client in their
yeah.
brain. So this task may not take as long as you think. And then after you do that, I want you to get in contact with all of those clients that you worked with in the past that had that type of property or that are over 55 or whatever, and ask them how they felt working with you, right? So that helps build your own mission, right? So
Okay.
like for instance, if you work with over 55, you took the confusion out of the process. I felt very comfortable with, your negotiation skills. I feel like you got us the best deal, like you really took care of us, those kinds of things. That helps create your mission. And that really
Okay.
actually helps with your channel banner that you create on YouTube as well. Like mine says, everybody deserves an affordable home, right? Because I
Right.
truly believe that. And that's my mission for my channel. And that's what you should be putting on your channel banner, your mission. So now you've gotten your real estate superpower. You understand who your avatar is in their age group, but you really need to dig in to who it is you want to talk to. If you're not over the 55 group, the age range, for instance, of the first time home buyer can be all over the map. A lot of times in our brains, we think first time home buyer, it's somebody in their 20s, No, sometimes The first time home buyer is somebody in their 40s and they're established and they have other bills and they have other wants, other pain points that they need to think about. And the reason I tell you that is because that's the person you're making content for. You're not making the content necessarily for the person that's 20. You want to only speak to one person and one person only. And
So
so
that
that,
brings up a good question
mhm.
on the avatar. Why is it so critical to build that avatar? Why is that so important to build that?
You and I talked about this before, and I'll stand on this hill and shout it from the mountaintops. It's critical in the fact that if you're trying to make content for everybody, you're not speaking to anybody.
Yeah, that's huge.
It is huge. It
Yeah.
makes a huge difference because the pain points for a 20-year-old are not the same as a 40-year-old.
If you're creating content for everybody, then you're speaking to nobody.
To no
No
one.
one. Yeah, that's huge.
And I got an argument with somebody on another real estate website on Facebook, and he could not get it. He was like, "Oh no, no, we have to be like this, and you're limiting your business." And I'm like, "Dude, you're swimming in an ocean and you're drowning. If you don't even know what you're doing, you're just trying to be something for everybody."
Yeah,
What? Like
yeah,
he's
yeah,
like, I'm the kind of person that can wear multiple hats. Then you're faking it. You're not even
yeah,
being true to yourself. How exhausting.
yeah.
I just want to
Some
be myself, and I want to
Something
help
else
people.
that you shared this on stage, and then you also shared this when we chatted a couple of weeks ago. You mentioned in that this is somewhat cliche, but you mentioned the riches are in the niches, which is
Mhm.
true. But then you took that one step further because the hands were going up when they were in the Q&A segment of your speech, and people were saying, "But I don't want to lose this client over here if I'm focused over here." And something that you shared was the other clients are still going to come. You're still going to get those, which that was another kind of mind shift or perspective, kind of a shift there is, yeah, I mean, and I would venture to guess that a lot of us, whether we are doing it intentionally or not, we are essentially kind of targeting some kind of a demographic, right? Some kind of a person. And it might just be, birds of a feather flock to, whatever it is. We're kind of catering to a specific segment of the market, if you will. But we get loads of other markets and other segments and all that, and we're not even trying. But
Right. So my
yeah,
niche is affordable housing. That doesn't mean I don't. All I sell is mobile homes and tiny houses and pieces of
yeah,
land. I mean, I'm all over the map, right? You
yeah,
just and even your clientele that has watched you, maybe they were watching me because they were trying to find something affordable for their son or daughter, but they want to sell their $1 million house in the area because they're wanting to downsize, right? They were watching me because they knew it would be something for their kids, but they know
good
that
point.
I'm a very trusted source because I know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah,
And they like my personality and they like the way I deliver information. So they want to work with me anyway, right? And so people say, "Oh, I'm alienating these group of people if I only talk to this one person." No, you're not. You're
yeah.
actually radiating out even further. You're casting your net even further because you're so focused on this, it automatically attracts all these other people outside of this. You'd be
Yeah,
be surprised.
and that's huge. And it's something else that I think that you mentioned, but I just caught like a light bulb is going off, is people like to work with experts.
Mhm.
And if you are the expert in whatever, first time home buyers or what, and you're creating all this content and the appearance is you are the expert, people that tune in, like you said, maybe parents are tuning in to you because you're a first time homebuyer expert and their kids are going to be buying a home soon, but they continue to hear you and they're like, wow, this guy like knows her stuff about real estate. Then I'm thinking like your credibility is like continuing to rise and rise and rise, right?
Mhm.
That's
Yep.
huge. Yeah. No, that's exactly right. That's huge.
But you always
Yeah.
have to focus in on one person, and you have to
Yeah.
build that avatar carefully, right?
Yeah.
And I always tell my students, what are most people concerned about? They have their money. That's their biggest concern. Like, where's their money going to go? How much are they going to save? Are they going to be able to afford this? So that's how you have to kind of think about when you're creating this content, you're answering those questions and you're softening the blow of what they're scared about. And
Mm,
so
yeah.
that's what I talk about in my videos. Um, I've reached I've shifted my focus because I've changed my avatar recently. I
Damn it,
used to talk
Frank.
to, yeah, I used to have Frank, but we're aiming for a much younger audience. Kids mostly, younger kids that feel like they'll never afford a house and they're going to be stuck renting for the rest of their lives. So I'm giving them solutions
Love it.
to the American dream. It may not be the 3-bedroom, 2-bath house, but this is the idea. And they're more receptive to my ideas anyways, much more than an older person would be. But the whole thing is that when I'm talking, I'm saying to them, like, I understand my daughter is doing this. Like, I understand you have student loans, but this is how you can afford it and pay those student loans even off faster. If you do it the way your parents did it, you'll be in debt for another 25 years. But if you do it this way, you're going to be out of debt in 15.
Yeah.
Like, I'm explaining to them how my solution works. And then I'm giving them the ammunition to go to their parents and say, yeah, mom, dad, I know that you don't want me to live in a tiny home on a piece of dirt in the middle of nowhere, but this is going to get me out of debt in 15 years. Right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm telling them that in the content itself, it's how to buy a tiny home, but I'm giving the reason more than just how to buy it.
Yeah.
I'm giving them
What you're saying, and I just want to make sure that our friends are catching this. When Kristina is doing video, when she's creating her content and doing these videos, she is literally speaking to one ideal client, like this ideal client, whoever that is. She is speaking to them. She's scripting everything to them. She's she's scripting things around their pain points and creating solutions, and all these things that she's doing is specific to that avatar. Is that correct?
Yes. I don't actually script. I write bullet points. Yeah,
Okay.
I don't do a script. I don't have a teleprompter or anything like that. I write bullet points of what I
Okay.
want to say. So that way, because I don't ever want to, if I'm reading, I sound like I'm reading. Those people, I'm
Right.
like,
Yeah.
the cadence of my voice completely changes if I'm reading. But
Good
if
point.
I'm just talking to the camera, like I'm talking to you, it feels more like my mom's sitting there talking to me on the couch and we're having a conversation while we're
Good
cooking
point.
dinner. So
Yeah.
I want to have that very authentic conversation with them. They just happen to be in the camera.
Yeah. Yeah.
When I first started this, I used to have a picture of a little guy above my camera. So that way I'd look at that guy.
Really? That's a good. Yeah. That's a good trick. That's a good
Yeah.
trick.
So, because it's hard to look in the lens of the camera. And I had a hard time of it because I would go look at there's a viewfinder off to the side and I would do this and you could tell. You could tell.
Mm,
And anybody that says you can't tell, you can tell. You can
yeah.
tell.
Just didn't
So
look as natural.
Yeah. So if you just look into the camera and talk to the camera and have that conversation with somebody as if they're sitting right across from you, that's going to feel a lot better to them as well.
Yeah. A lot more conversational, a lot more
Mm-hmm.
natural.
Yep.
Okay, so speaking of the avatar, and
Mm-hmm.
this is the part that I'm excited about, and I know our friends listening are excited about. And this is where I'm going to encourage you to get your pad and pen out right now, or digital ink pad, whatever you're using, because let's unpack the avatar. And
Okay.
I would love for you to help me build an avatar, like live, like right now. We'll just kind of talk through it because, like I said, this is still kind of new to me,
Mm-hmm.
building that ideal avatar.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll frame it this way: I'm a tenured agent. Let's say I've 10, 15 years I've been in the business, right? I've helped people all walks of life, creed, color, race, ethnicity, religious background, height, weight, whatever. Like, I've helped everybody. I'm kind of fearful that if I isolate or identify or get so laser focused on an ideal client, I might eliminate all those walks of life that I've helped because I'm so focused on this one. And
You feel like
then,
they're going to abandon you now? Like, oh, because you're talking about luxury homes, you don't want to sell my.
well,
No,
no,
that's
I
dumb.
wouldn't say I wouldn't say abandon me. I
Uh-huh.
guess I feel like I'm constantly searching for clients, right? And if
But
I'm
wouldn't you
going to
want the
be,
clients to come to you? I'm a little
that would be a
confused. Like, so here's the whole thing with YouTube, right? Instead of
mm,
you going out there and searching for clients, you're building content around your ideal client, your ideal avatar, that you're not having to search for them. They're coming to you. Whenever I
wow,
do any
okay,
video, it's they ask if I have time to work with them. That's what happens with all my students. They have so many clients coming in they don't know how to manage the amount of leads that come in at one time. So we had to come up with whole new systems just to manage the leads because they learned how to speak to their ideal client. And because they personally want to work with them, the content that is created around those people end up contacting them instead of you going out there and trying to search. This isn't like cold calling and knocking on the door and begging for business.
See,
This
this
is
is perspective shifting for even me, like right now, because I'm in the mindset where I'm going out and I'm shaking the trees and knocking on doors and making calls and stuff, but it's not even about that. I mean, sure, you
no.
can supplement that, right? But you're building you're building this passive prospecting machine where they're going to come knocking on your door.
Yeah, I have a whole like
Wow.
system of like they're filling out a form to work with me.
Wow. Okay.
They want to work with me. There's no, and that to me was the whole shift in my own brain because when,
That's a huge shift. That's a huge shift, and that's probably something. Now, I know that. So you've mentioned this a couple of times. I want to make sure that we grasp this, and we are going to come back to it towards the end. But you've mentioned students. So
Mhm,
everything that Kristina is going to be sharing with me and kind of helping me build this avatar in this mini session, if you will, she actually coaches other agents on how to do this in her program. So, and we're going to come back to that. I don't want to forget about that because that's
oh,
huge.
yeah, we'll totally do that.
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
so let's just kind of start from scratch. For me, I'm that
Mhm,
tenured agent, right? When you're working with an agent who really maybe they don't know who their ideal client is,
mhm.
what's one of the first questions that you might ask to help them start defining that avatar?
I ask them what they like to do. I ask them what they hate doing in real estate. Like, what is it
Okay,
that you hate
so going
doing?
back to that,
Yep.
that's a great first place to start.
Yep, that's the first thing I tell them to do. What do you hate doing in real estate? And have them list a bunch of stuff, and it could be anything, putting in signs, anything. I want to hear all of their gripes, right? And then I started saying, okay, so what do you love about real estate? The first thing that all real estate agents say is the money. They always say,
I
I like
love
the
the commission
commissions. Yeah, we
checks.
all do. We all do. So, but then, slowly but sure, we start breaking down, like who it is they really like working with, and then the next step is, like I said, is that once you get an idea, if you're a brand new agent, you won't be able to do this. You can ask family members, but if you have an established clientele and you've only really sold a lot of land, let's just say, you can
Hmm.
reach out to those land clients that you've worked with in the past and ask them, I'm going to be as extremely honest as possible. Like, you're not going to hurt my feelings. Ask them the things that you could improve on, and ask them the things that they felt were great about the transaction with you two working together. Tell them it's not going to be published anywhere. It's just for your own personal growth. And you'd be surprised on how willing people are to be honest with you,
Yeah.
and let you know some things. This will help you as far as building your client, your ideal client as well, because of the fact that if you're lacking in those things, that's obviously something you need to be working on for the content you're planning on making in the future, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So, get a list of that going, and now you can start averaging out the age of the people that you've worked with in the past. You can start averaging out, like, is it more leaning more male, more female? Are they married? Do they have kids? Do they not? All of these things matter because when you start creating content, if you happen to have a client that doesn't have kids, why would you ever mention the schools or the kids in the content you make? Because they don't care. They're not going to care about that. But what
Good
if they're
point.
really into golfing and fishing and all those things? Well, if they're into that while they're buying land, that's the stuff you're going to be mentioning in your videos. You have to be that
Yeah.
specific, you know? And, if they happen to be older, are they worried about retirement? What would be good investment land for them to buy in retirement? What would be
Okay.
good, for inheritance land? What is good land to purchase for my future generations? What is good land to purchase for farming? Like, there's all these things around just buying land. There's all these things about just affordable housing. There's all these things about 55 plus communities. Anybody can make a niche about anything. We have a girl that just did a niche of homes on the water, lake, ocean, all the things that you wouldn't even know about buying something on the water. But she also knew that her avatar is most likely buying a vacation property. So what
Okay.
else would they want to know? They're probably
Yeah.
wanting to know about the competition and Airbnbs in the area, right? So
Yeah.
she did a whole series about that and made her channel blow up, right? So you have to you have to keep thinking and trying to study your avatar. Look at those comments that come in. And at the beginning, you're not going to get many comments, but pay attention to the ones that do come in because you're going to get some good information out of there.
You're going to start, I guess that's going to help you determine who's asking questions and what kind of questions are they asking. And that's going to help you create future content based on
Correcto mundo.
those kind of things. Okay.
Because your avatar's watching it, right? So
Yeah.
there's something out there they're missing. They want to know.
So let's starting with the first step in identifying is make a list of the things that you love in real estate, make a things of the list that you hate in real estate or hate doing or
Mm-hmm.
whatever that may be from that list. So let's just say, like for me, let's say I hate investment property. I hate working with investors.
Mm-hmm.
Because for me it's very spreadsheet driven. There's not a lot of emotions in it and they fall in love and whatever. It's like, okay, if these numbers don't work out, if we're negotiating with the seller
Mm-hmm.
and these numbers just don't work out, if they're 50 cents off on my spreadsheet, I don't need this house, I'll just go to the next one, right? So these are just maybe some reasons that I'm not in love with working with investor clients, right?
Amen.
But that's just me. Some people love it, but we're talking
You can
about,
have all of my investors, every single one of them,
I'll take them.
and my engineers.
Yeah, in engineers, I've got a good program for engineers for sure, which they absolutely love. But we're going to create that list first, right?
Huh?
What are maybe some specific demographics or traits that you want agents to define? When
I want people to really focus in on the age, because if you tell me my avatar is between the ages of 20 and 35, no, they're not. Because the
there's a
person that's
big difference.
35 years old has completely different pain points than the person that's 20 years old. So
Say that one
I
more
don't ever
time.
hear that.
Say that one more time.
If you tell me that your avatar is between the ages of 20 and 35, I'm literally going to lose my top. Because you can't have an avatar that's that age, because a 20
So
year
many
old's
different life events can
absolutely
happen
the 20
between
year
there.
old's just starting off their life. The 35 years old or even 30-year old is really kind of rolling into life. They're getting into that
Yeah.
adult groove, right? The 20s are there for you to make a bunch of mistakes. Your 30s are there to get your poop together.
So let's say that I said to you, you said, okay, let's define age first. And I said, kind of maybe 20 to 35. Before you blow your lid,
No, I
what are
would
some,
say no, it's not. I would tell you, I would still
so
blow my
coach
lid.
me on that. Like how would you help me reel that in and kind of dial it in?
Well, then I would say, okay, well, imagine your avatar right now, and you're saying they're between the ages of 20 and 35. What are their pain points? And then inevitably they always say, well, they want to buy a house. Okay, I get that. But what are their other pain points? Are they trying to pay off student loan debt? Are they trying to finish college? Because what you're telling me is a 20 to a 35-year-old. And then I'd say, just like I told you, if you're 20 years old, your pain points are completely different than the guy that's 35. Do you think the 25-year-old is thinking about the stock market and all this other stuff? No, absolutely not.
Probably not.
But that 35-year-old is. So you have to narrow that down. No more than a 10-year age gap. No more than a 10-year age gap. I
Yeah.
would love it to be about 30, about
Where the
5.
20 and even the 25-year-old might be, their pain points might be trying to get that first established job,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah. And
start
find an
building.
affordable place to live.
Yeah. And your 35-year-old, they might be with their first toddler at that point and have
Absolutely.
some other kind of bills and daycare and other things completely different from a
Absolutely.
20 or even a 25-year-old.
Yeah. The
So
20-year-old's looking to get his first nice car.
right. Yeah.
The 35-year-old's looking to buy a minivan.
Right. Yeah. God forbid. Okay. So then I'm starting to lean more towards, I want to pull that, I want to dial that age gap in.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe I was 20 to 35, but maybe I want to bring that maybe 30 to 35
Correct.
is
That's much
is
better.
maybe something a little more realistic, especially when it comes to creating specific content,
Correct.
right? Because it's all going to go back to, and you create myriad videos specific to your avatar if their age range is 10, 15 plus years apart. And
Mm-hmm.
you probably can't, right? It's
Right.
going to be
You're
very
better. I
difficult.
mean, you'll be okay if you're like, 40 to 50.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah.
50 to 60, that's okay. But 20 to 30, break that down into 5 years apart.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that makes sense. So can you walk us through maybe the process of researching your avatar or doing research for your avatar online? Is there what tools or platforms do you use to kind of gather intel or data on your avatar?
Do you know what the best place is? Reddit. I'm telling you,
Reddit?
Reddit, I love it. Mostly because you can pretty much find a demographic of anything on Reddit. It's broken down in niches just like YouTube is. And your ideal avatar is sitting in a lot of those Reddit groups. And you can also find them in Facebook groups as well. And you start reading their questions and you start reading their posts and you start reading those responses. And it's like a gold mine for content ideas. More and more people should take a gander over at Reddit.
Yeah.
It can be a
Yeah.
cesspool, I'm not lying, I get it, but there's some gold in there, really good, interesting stuff that and you may not even have known some of these things, like, I've learned a lot just by doing research for my own channel that I had no clue about. So, it makes it
So
very
give me an
interesting.
example of something for your avatar. And I know that I got to hear you live at
Mhm.
RevB, that real estate video blueprint conference in San Antonio. That was freaking amazing. But you were in a season where you were transitioning into a different avatar, right?
I'm
Kind of
still
trying to.
in that season right now, yes.
Okay, okay, very interesting. Give me an example of what you would be researching or searching for on Reddit as it relates to your avatar. What would you research to help you connect with your avatar?
So at that time, my avatar was much older. So we were talking boomers, right?
Right.
So I was looking in like places like RV travel, people with
Okay.
RVs. I was looking at, most of these people were trying to find a second home that they could have for like a vacation house, just looking for cool ways to have a different kind of home. They had money. They just made some pretty poor financial decisions, so but they wanted something that they could call their own, but, they're a little angry. And so
Yeah.
because of Reddit, I was able to determine who these people are. I was able to determine who they voted for. I was able to determine what they were into. Mhm. I was able to determine all sorts of things about them that even in my own comment section, I wouldn't probably have known about them. But that made it very easy for me to make content around them, because when I started mentioning some of those things in almost like a passing type of thing, they would be like, "Oh, you saw that show too?" No, I didn't see that freaking show. I just saw it on Reddit.
I saw, I saw people
Like,
talking. I
I
saw
don't
my
watch that
avatars
crap.
talking about it. Yeah. Oh, how funny. So if I'm following you, one of, if not the main thing that you might research on Reddit, for example, is what your avatar's hobbies or interests are. And
Right,
that might
right. So
be,
they may be like wanting to find, let's just say, a mobile home, right?
yeah.
But in those conversations, in the way that they discuss things, they talk about their careers, like, like, I'm a truck driver. Oh,
So you're picking all that up in the comments and the
yes.
perfect.
Yeah, so I'm
Okay.
breaking that down and looking for common patterns in what those conversations talk about. Even, yeah, it doesn't really honestly matter if you're all young or old right now, but people that are looking for affordable housing, their biggest concern is that they're not gonna be able to eat. That they're so concerned about the price of food and the price of housing right now that they're afraid that, like, they're not gonna be able to pay just their regular bills, and then they're scared that, like, what if something happens to me and I get sick? And they have a lot of fear. So my channel, I empathize with their fears, but I give them the solutions to their fear, right? You
Okay.
know, because all these headlines, it doesn't matter who's president or not, but all these headlines are meant to incite a click, right?
It's the doom and gloom media.
But it's been like that for
Yeah.
back into '08. My mom was like, "You're so stupid to become a real estate agent."
To get into
Because
real
I
estate.
became a real estate agent in '08. She said that was the dumbest career move I could have possibly made. And I was like, no, I'm going to make the best out of it. And I did really well because I learned how to do short sales and foreclosures when everybody else, all the other
Okay.
old realtors were like, I'm not doing that. That's too much work. Well, you can sit on here
Yeah.
but Nancy, I'm going to go learn how to do this. Right.
Probably
So
served you well.
yeah, it did.
Yeah.
It did. I learned something I'd never learned before, and I did something no one else wanted to do, and I ended up making a check for my family. That's
So
like
take that, mom.
yeah, that's how content creation even came about for me too, because I got really sick of the clients I was working with. And I was like, I don't want to work with these people ever again. So I'm going to make videos that I know would annoy the garbage out of them because I have a potty mouth. I'm kind of annoying and I'm really silly. So I'm going to do these videos and they'll never call me again. They'll never call me again. Some of them I was literally basing the whole character around that person.
That's hilarious.
And, it's funny that some of them actually did call me again, which was shocking to me. But if you understand who you're making the content for and you really focus in on that, that seed expands. Like you always start off with one seed. You're only talking to one little tiny plant. And then all of a sudden that tiny plant, the more you talk to it, it just grows and grows and grows. Nurture that one person, nurture that one seed, and you'll see how big that tree will grow.
I love that analogy. Okay, so how would you balance building an avatar around someone that you actually like working with versus just going after what the market data tells you is profitable, right?
You're going to
And
be miserable if you just go after the profits, right? Like the last thing I want to do is work with luxury home buyers. That sounds like spooning on my eyeballs with a dull spoon. Like I would never do
yeah,
that, right? But I love helping people. Nothing makes me happier than somebody that got a really good deal. We came in with a payment lower than they anticipated, and they're
mm,
just totally elated by getting their first house or even their second house after a
yeah,
divorce or something like that. That warms my heart. That's much more satisfying to me as a human being than getting don't get me wrong, I love a big,
yeah,
$30,000 check off a one home sale. That feels good too. I'm not saying that doesn't, but it's almost like after that deal's done, it's kind of like, it doesn't
yeah,
feel the same as the person that calls you up 3 years later and goes, hey, I got a new job and I really want to sell this little house so you can help me find my next forever home because we're pregnant. Like those
yeah.
people I love, you know?
Well, maybe, and so let me ask that a different way, maybe put a different spin on it. So let's say again, because you're coaching me right now, you
Mhm.
literally are, because I'm taking notes and I'm kind of getting this for free, which is kind of cool. So I'm more familiar with someone who's just like me, right, or very similar to me, similar interests, similar hobbies,
Mhm.
socioeconomic status, and blah 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 blah. So my mind would kind of tend to think, okay, should I stick with people that are kind of like me because I'm going to be more familiar with it? Or am I creating this avatar like you? Obviously, you're not a first time home buyer, but you're gravitating towards that market. So how do I decide?
Your
How do I decide
passion
on which one I want to
creates
go?
the cash-in. So
What's that?
your passion will create the cash-in.
Your passion will create the cash in.
Because
Okay.
if you talk about
So
something
many
you're
Christinaisms that I'm picking up here.
well, if you think about it, when you talk about something you truly enjoy, you end up talking about it in a way and for a long period of time. I joke when I say to some people, if you're trying to figure out what your niche is, what is the one thing in real estate you could talk about? Well, if you were totally trashed for 30 minutes and nonstop talk about it, right? What is that one thing?
Hmm.
Because you're so passionate about it and you get really excited about it. And then that will convey in the camera. But if you're doing
Okay.
anything for just the check, you end up not being your true self. You're not really passionate about that. You just want the check, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So you could talk about the most affordable housing options on the planet and you'll still make the money. You could talk about luxury homes and still make the money. You could talk about beach houses and you'll still make the money. It's what you're passionate about will bring in the money.
Okay. That makes sense. So, and what I'm passionate about might not be my hobbies and people that are
Right.
just like me. It might be as it's related to my vocation or my career. It might be those first time home buyers, or it might be those downsizers, or it might be those people in the nearing empty nesting phase of their life, or whatever. Okay. That resonates. That makes a lot more sense. Okay, going through my little checklist that I've created here. Once I've defined my avatar, how does that change the way I script and title my YouTube videos?
So there's a great debate between real estate agents, and I hear it all the time. They're like, don't do clickbait titles. Don't do clickbait titles. Well, the thing is about clickbait titles is that's what people click on.
That's what
Like,
stops them and gets them to click.
so if you're trying to sit on some moral high ground, like I'm not going to create those. I'm going to be up here and have this high morality. No one's going to click on your crap.
Have
I'm
fun with your
sorry.
6 views, right?
Yeah. Good luck to you. You know,
Yeah.
And I put it to people like this. You create the title that gets them to click. You make those thumbnails that make it to click. And let's just use, like there was one time everybody was making housing crash videos. But within those first 3 seconds of the video, you clear up the nonsense right away. Like housing crash 2025. The first 3 seconds of the video, there's not going to be a housing crash in 2025. And this is why, right? You
Yeah.
got them in with this,
You got them to click on it and open it.
yeah, and open
Yeah.
it, and then you explain. And honestly, if they were there because they wanted to hear the crash of 2025 and how it's going to happen, then they're wanting to stay because they want to hear what you have to say, so they could argue with you in the
Mm.
comment section, right? But then you might diffuse them by getting them to understand and see your evidence of why it's not going to happen, and then you're going to talk to them and say, "I know you've probably heard this on Reddit and the New York Times because because you've been studying them that they are on Reddit and they're reading the New York
Mm.
Times because they quote it all the time. You're saying that because you understand who they are, and they'll be more willing to listen to you. And even though you might have made them mad, they know that you're educated enough and they want to call you and use you as a real estate agent.
I love it. I mean, everything is like building, right? So everything that you're doing here that you're coaching me through is you've got that foundation, which is, really strong. That's I hate doing this. I love doing this. And then going back and maybe if you've got a little book of a business, going back to some of those clients, what did you like working with me? What did you not like? What could I've done different? So really kind of tightening that in. And then once you've identified which segment of real estate you like. Is it luxury? Kristina's not a luxury fan or investment fan. But if it's first time homebuyers, if it's real estate, if it whatever it is, you're starting to kind of narrow that down. And now it's how can I find out more about this ideal client, aka avatar? And you're going to places like Reddit and probably even YouTube and other places and searching for things that avatar would be interested in. And then you're looking at all the comments based on, whatever that is. Like with your 5 and older or your boomer, it was more about you were looking at like RV and travel and whatever, and you get on one of those threads and you're looking at all the comments and you start seeing them mention, well, I read this article in the New York Times, like you just said, and now it's like bing, 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 bing. So this is creating so much incredible content for you in the future just by researching some of those comments. This is
Yeah,
this
like
is
I would
gold.
never in a million years when I was working or trying to use that person as an avatar, I would never have quoted CNN, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
They're
and
too
then
conservative, right?
well, yeah, but then they didn't like Fox News either. I was guesstimating that like if I used a clip from Fox News that like that would have been working for them too, and they didn't like them either. So I was like, okay, what if I
Interesting.
use the AP? Well, they were fine with that one. So I was like,
Uh,
okay, so it's the AP from here on out.
wow. That's hilarious.
And they really don't like Dave Ramsey, right? And I thought they would have loved Dave Ramsey, and I was wrong. They don't like him because I saw on a Reddit thread that they're like, that guy's advice is out of line. It was good 15, 20 years ago when I needed to get out of Dave, but that's not going to work for our kids today. And I was like, oh, they
Mm.
hate Dave Ramsey. So my
Yeah.
latest video, I made Dave Ramsey into a little baby, and he was talking about mobile homes and how like they're cars you sleep in is what he says, and I think that's a ridiculous quote.
Cars you sleep in.
Yeah, he's a
Goodness.
jerk. He's a jerk. So, anyways, I put that as a thing, and people love it. If you saw, like, if you look at the comment section, they're like, "Oh my gosh, baby David Ramsey! Oh my god, it's so funny." They love it.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Not to get too far down on a Dave Ramsey trail, but so his daughter, I think, is it Rachel Cruz? I think it's Rachel. This was probably 10 plus years ago. She came to speak as a keynote at one of our big, huge mortgage industry conferences. And she literally said, you should basically, you shouldn't get a mortgage. You should try to save up for it and then pay it off as fast as you can. I'm like, no, read your room, bro. Like, come on. It was insane. But anyway,
One of the worst conferences I spoke at was at a mortgage conference. Those people had no sense of humor.
really? Was it,
Yeah,
well,
they
what, 2009, 2010?
this was back in probably 2019, 2020.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
That was the
Interesting.
driest room in the world. I make these jokes and I'd laugh at myself and they were like, dead,
They
dead
must have all
inside.
been hungover. Was it early on day two?
No, it was right after lunch. They gave me like literally a panic attack. I was like,
That
man,
is
that
so
sucks.
bizarre.
I know, it was
So
very
bizarre.
rude. Very
My
rude.
goodness. Okay, but we get off track here.
Yeah, sorry.
Um, so what are some common mistakes that you see even your students or agents making when they're trying to define their avatar, and how do you kind of course correct them?
Well, I think a lot of times we hear a lot of different people giving their own take on what content should be. And there's some different systems out there. So they end up just kind of copying everybody else what they're doing in their area. So they'll say, agent A, agent B, agent C, and they're like, "Oh, well they're doing these moving to living in home tours. They're doing this, so I'm going to do it too." Well, who are you
Okay.
talking to then? What are you doing it
Yeah.
for? You're doing it because somebody else is doing it. And
Yeah.
then you have no passion for what you're doing because you're just doing what everybody else is doing anyways. And how are you to stand out in the crowd with that? No wonder why you have
Yeah.
a defeatist attitude towards
Yeah.
YouTube.
Good point.
Because like you have no structure, you have no idea who you're talking to. You're just making videos just to make videos so you can get leads. And
Yeah.
that's the wrong way to look at it. If you are looking at content creation as the only thing, like, well, I'm only doing this to get leads because I want bigger checks, then you're in it for the wrong reason. Like
Yeah. You're not doing it to help people also, right?
you need to have to satisfy an audience. Define who that audience is, and then you'll have a lot more checks coming in organically. They come to you, you don't have to go to them. You don't have to trick them with silly calls to action too. I hear this a lot from the real estate YouTube gurus. They will say, like, oh, make sure you put the call to action at the first, middle, and the end of the video, and like they'll tell you all this stuff. But you know, nothing sounds more cheesy than a canned call to action,
Especially multiple times throughout a video.
especially multiple times throughout the video. They're
Yeah.
telling you to do that 3 times through the videos because they can't keep a good audience retention. So they're telling you to
Mm,
do that because they know that their audience retention is terrible. Keep them on the video as long as possible and they'll call you without you having to do any calls to action. I'm not saying you shouldn't do it, but if you're creating good content for your client, for your ideal avatar, they're going to stay all the way to the end. And when they do stay to the end, you're giving them a reminder not to subscribe, not to share, none of that garbage. You're asking them to reach out to you. Because what does likes, shares, and subscribes do for you and your business? Not a damn thing.
yeah.
But with them
Yeah.
reaching out to you sure does.
Yeah.
So that last call to action on your video should be like, hey, if you're looking for a real estate agent in the Palm Beach area, look, just scan this right here and I'll get a hold of you. And that QR code that they're scanning with their phone, because they're probably watching it on television. That's why most people are watching on television right now. There's YouTube. It goes straight to a lead capture site, right? And you have them fill that out and then you make that lead capture so incredibly simple. You're just going to ask for their name, their first name, their last name, their email, and their phone number. That's it. If you really want to push the boundaries a little bit more, just ask if they're going to buy or sell. You can get all the extra information you need in the next follow-up messaging that you have with them. Now, some agents will do a Calendly so they can set up a
An
Zoom.
appointment.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but you got to remember, most people are lazy, right? So if they have to go through several little pages and steps to fill out a form and then
Yeah.
they go to the calendar and stuff like that, they're not going to do it.
They're giving up.
Yeah, but what you really need is their email address and their phone number so you can talk to them on the phone and you can set them up on a Zoom call and you guys can have a conversation.
Yeah.
That's what I always say. That's been the best working landing page for me and all my students, is to cut it down and make it very simple. Some people will now I have one student that has one that they fill out the first thing, and then the second thing that goes out to that client is a more detailed form.
Okay.
And if they
Yeah.
won't
But
fill it out for her because she has so many coming in, then she's like, I'm not going to bother with them.
yeah, and that's fine.
Yeah.
She's identified the love and hate, right?
Yep,
On follow up
exactly.
or whatever. And that's, yeah, good for her. Okay, I think I know the answer to this, but I know this is a burning question. If an agent works multiple markets, or maybe they have different client types, would you recommend that they still just keep one avatar or multiple avatars?
I'd say get a different channel.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, so well, I'm sure your avatar in, like, let's just say, I know I have a student that is in North Carolina, licensed in North Carolina and South Carolina, and they cross over, right? But their avatar is still the same, right? But if you were
Okay,
in Pennsylvania, in Florida, two totally different people, two totally different avatars, create two different channels.
okay. So that's a good solution. So you would just
Mhm.
create a whole separate YouTube channel, and that would be a separate avatar.
Yeah, because their pain points are gonna be different. Like the guy
Okay.
in Florida doesn't give a crap about snow.
Yeah, right. But you don't want to confuse your target audience by having kind of multiple avatars on one channel,
Yeah, you're wasting your time if you're doing that, honestly. You're kinda like you're
because then you're
basically trying
talking
to get up a
to
hill like this if you're doing that, because
yeah,
you'll get up a little bit, and then you'll feel like you're going back, and then going up a little bit, it's gonna take you forever to get to the top, but if you focus in on that one avatar, it's gonna be a lot smooth sailing. Smooth
yeah.
sailing.
And that goes back to one of the first things you said is if you're creating content for everybody,
You're creating it for nobody.
you're talking to nobody.
Talking
Okay.
to
Yeah.
nobody.
Yeah. And you kind of mentioned this already as well, but let's come back to, me, I'm a tenured agent, 10, 15 years, whatever. What are some of the things I can look for in my past clients to start building a powerful avatar? Like, what are some of those things that you mentioned earlier that I can go back to them and say, hey, help me understand what?
The same thing I said earlier. Basically, all you're going to do is ask them, because you've already identified your real estate superpower. You're identified who it is that you've worked with in the past that was more of your ideal avatar for your superpower. And then you're just going to email them and ask them, what is it that you liked working with me as a real estate agent? What things could I have been stronger with or stronger on as a real estate agent working with you? And tell them to be as frank and honest as possible. And you'd be surprised. Like I said, you'd be surprised how many people will be sometimes a little brutally honest, but you know what? We're grown-ups, we can handle it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and so something that you just mentioned that I didn't actually make a note of earlier, which I'm glad that I did ask you to essentially repeat this question again or answer, is when I'm going back to my past clients, I want to go back to those past clients that meet the description of my avatar.
Correct.
Okay, that's okay. I did not write that down. That's good to know. Okay, very good, very good. Kristina, can you share and maybe we can keep we can add this in the description down below. Is there a YouTube video that you made with a specific avatar in mind? I already know the answer to that, but is there one maybe that specifically, like, here, watch this one, and you will know that this was created specifically for my avatar? Is there
All my
one
videos are specific to my
or
avatar.
are they? Okay,
Yeah,
okay,
so my last 6 videos that I put out on video, put on YouTube is very specific to a much younger audience. Like, even the memes and the little things that I've added to that video are it does not speak to an older crowd at all. It's very young centered, right?
yeah,
And, so I would say my last one would probably be the best one that I did, and it was about, golly, I don't even remember the title anymore. Usually when they're done for me.
yeah,
Let me
yeah.
look. It was about mobile manufactured homes, because I want them to realize that the people that own a lot of these mobile home lots, they know that you don't know things. So I wanted to just tell them, what to look out for. So yeah, the title was "They're Lying to You About Mobile Modular Homes."
Okay.
That was the title, and it's very specific to a younger audience, but it could appeal to a larger.
Okay, great. I'll grab that one and include it in the description
Sure.
below the interview here.
Hmm.
So, okay, very cool. Now, one thing that, well, I say one thing, one of the many things that you shared with me when you're kind of going through your ideation process, if you will, and I thought this was very unique, is you start with like a title and a thumbnail image. Is that right?
Yes, absolutely.
So help me understand that. Help us understand your thought and exactly what that means.
So I learned this a long time ago because I used to do what almost probably everybody I know does is they create a video and then they're like, "Oh, what would be a good title for this? What would be a good thumbnail for this?" That's how most people look at it because they're like, "I know."
After they've already created
They
the
already
video.
made the video and they're like, "Oh," and they're uploading it. And as they're uploading it, they're like hurrying up and coming up with a title and thumbnail for it, which is backwards. Because what's the first thing most people do? They look at the
They
title and the
see the
thumb,
title, the thumbnail image, right? In the
right?
title.
So how I was taught by Daryl Eves. Matter of fact, his brother is my business partner on the Real Estate Video Geeks course that I have. He teaches AI, I teach YouTube. But what we learned from Daryl, his brother, is you should always think of the title and the thumbnail first. Because if you have a really cool title and you can't make a really good thumbnail that tells the story of that title, don't make the video. There's no point because no one's going to click on it anyway.
I mean, that's true.
And I was
Yeah.
like, man. And you know what's so funny is that just recently I had a really cool idea for a video. And it was about, have you ever heard the term dinks?
Dual income,
No kids.
no
Yeah.
kids. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, that is interesting. I'm going to do a video about dinks. What the hell kind of thumbnail are you going to make for that?
I don't know. It might look kind of funny.
But I had like an X over a baby and then like a young couple like cheering because they had a house, but it looked stupid and mismatched. I could not
An
get that.
X over a baby. That'd
Yeah,
be
like
kind of funny.
yeah,
Yeah.
and then I had X's over the baby's eyes, and like I must have done 12 different thumbnails, and I got so frustrated. I'm like, you know what? Screw that. I'm not making that. I'm not doing it.
So you
But
just tossed.
I know that I'll mention it in a video. I know that I'm going to use that term
Yeah.
in a video.
Okay. So you basically just tossed the whole idea.
Absolutely. And thank
Okay.
God I didn't waste time spending
Because you could not come up with a good
thumbnail.
thumbnail image to. Okay.
Yep,
Okay.
he's gone. Done. Gone with the wind.
Well, I'm guilty of that. I mean, I can't tell you. I mean, I posted 2 videos today, and they were. I came up with a video, and I hate to admit it, but I was that dude. Like, I'm ready to post it. I'll spend 5 seconds and come up with a cool thumbnail real quick or something like that. And yeah,
You
that.
cannot come up with a cool thumbnail in 5 seconds.
I mean, I thought it was pretty kick-a, but I think it has like 2 views, and that's all.
Man, you are making waves. You are making waves, dude.
Right,
You're a
man.
phenom.
Jeez, good stuff. Good stuff. That's fair, though. That's fair. Um, okay, I would love for you to share a little bit about you've got a free resource and then you also have your class, your
Right. So I do have a Facebook group. If you want to join the Facebook book group, it's a YouTube real estate masterminds. There's a
okay,
short, like little questionnaire and you have to answer and then you can join that. But believe it or not, Joe and I are going to be moving it over to our website because we're noticing more and more people are getting suspended from YouTube and from Facebook for no
Facebook.
reason whatsoever. I was guilty of this myself. I was able to get my account back, but several people haven't. So,
Okay.
the thing is, even and this goes for all real estate agents in everything you do. If you're going to have a CMA for yourself, don't use your brokers. Create your own CMA because you own that list.
Yeah.
You never know if your brokerage is going to end tomorrow. Any kind of lead system, capture system you have, go ahead and have your own system. So that way, like I said, your broker shuts the doors tomorrow. You have this all belongs to you and you're not scrambling at the last minute. If you don't have a website and you're like, well, at this time I really can't, put a IDX and all that stuff because it costs too much money. I get that. Go ahead and sign up and get a Wix account and have people like start a blog, right? Start a blog, and that way that you have your internet presence on there, and it's not just
You're more
advertising for your
portable if you need to be.
right. So
Yeah.
if something is to happen, you own it all. You own it all. So that's the idea that Joe and I are doing for our own website, right? So we're going to be moving a lot of that free Facebook group to another free group that's on our website, which I really enjoy because we can even give more value, more free information that we wouldn't put on Facebook, because we get some I spies on there that like to steal from Joe and I. This
Okay.
kind of puts it behind a wall because they have to fill out a form and we see who they are,
Who they
right?
are.
So it makes it a little easier to investigate who
Yeah.
these people are that are coming into our group. And we're going to be doing live streams on that, and giving people free channel reviews to help them, go over their channel, help with their
Really? Free
thumbnails,
channel
titles.
reviews. Okay.
Absolutely. Free channel reviews. Then that will be on our website. You can go to realestatevideogeeks.com and you can join the wait list. We're just building this group right now. But like I said, we're still going to have it on Facebook. It's not shutting down. We will be periodically in there, but all the good stuff's going to be on our website.
Okay. And I'll include the Facebook name in the description below. And I'll also, friends, you can find the Real Estate Video Geeks link down below as well.
Thank you. Thank you.
So,
Cool.
but what about the course, the class that you do? Was that
Yeah,
one of
so
those?
I have a few courses. I have one for just thumbnails. If someone has been doing YouTube for quite some time, they are.
Wow, a whole course just for thumbnails. That's how
Yeah,
critical that
yeah,
can be.
yeah, because it's
Wow.
it's important, right? So
Yeah.
your thumbnails and your titles are super important. So I have one for thumbnails. So if you want that course, you can do that. We also have another like little mini course if you're just starting your channel and you want to know how to create a banner or a profile picture, or I think it's like $50. Like, it's nothing.
Okay.
It's nothing, but it gives some good
$50
information.
is also known as free,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah, yeah. If I'm gonna be honest, it's to fill out to become a lead capture in our system, so we can
Okay.
start send you advertisements.
Okay. That's fair.
Fair enough, right?
Yeah.
But the thumbnail course and then that how to set up your channel course. Then we have our full course, which is 8 weeks long. It's an 8-week course on how to do YouTube and become like a really serious YouTuber.
How to
Like
become a Kristina Smallhorn.
how to become a Kristina Smallhorn or a Jackie Baker or a Jen Sylvester, or like we have lots of students that have blown up because of the way that Joe and I teach YouTube, and which is great. I think it's fantastic. I love, my favorite thing in the whole entire world is when a student does really, really well. Like that like juices my day up, when they send me a
Yeah,
screenshot and they're like,
for
look, this
sure.
video took off because I changed the thumbnail. Like that feels really
You
good.
help change the trajectory of someone's business,
Right.
right?
Well,
And
yeah, and
life.
like
That's
that,
awesome.
yeah, when you're getting that phone call, they're like, "I never thought my life would be like this." I was able to go to Italy and pay for Italy
Mm,
because of YouTube. And that's another side effect of YouTube, because it isn't just the fact that you're getting more closings and you're getting more clients. The opportunity for monetization is huge. You can make money on YouTube from stupid stuff like the clothes that you wear. You can have sponsorships from companies that want to talk to you about their specific homes or security systems or lights, anything like that. And then you get paid for it. Then on top of it, then you get AdSense from YouTube. And that's not, you know what, AdSense on YouTube, people like laugh at it or snark at it. I have students that are making $20,000 a month on YouTube videos, and they're
really?
doing closings, and they're getting sponsors. So, I mean, they're just padding their every
Multiple
month
revenue streams.
income. So even if they've
Yeah.
never sold a house, they're still got that in the background.
Yeah. Yeah. Nothing wrong with that.
No,
Or
no,
they could
no,
sell $12,000 worth of overalls,
no.
right?
Yeah, over $10,000. Yeah, it's
Over
close to 12.
10,000. Okay.
Oh, close to 12,000. But
That was a
well, I always want to preface this in the fact that I made that video 3 years ago, and I bought them on Amazon. I linked it. And so those sales weren't all at once. It's been over the
sure.
last 3 to 4 years. A totaled, I've made
Yeah.
$12,000.
But I mean,
Okay.
it just becomes mailbox money and it just adds up with some of the other mailbox money that you're like,
Yes.
oh, wow, there's a check. Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
And then
Or
and
a
then you
deposit.
mentioned foreclosures.com, and then you get another, $200 to $300 check in the mail from foreclosures.com because people signed up for it.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that works. That works.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
And so again, I'm going to have links to all of these courses down below in the description for our friends listening. Okay. I know we're coming up. I'm probably a little bit over time here. So I want to respect that. So I've got two quick questions for you. And these are two questions I ask all of my guests. What's your favorite tech tool that other agents should know about?
My favorite tech tool. Well, you know
It
what?
can be
I'll tell
anything.
you what my favorite tech program that I don't know if all the agents are using, but I just discovered it and I think it's fantastic to keep everybody on the same page. Slack.
Really?
Yeah. So
How
so
are you using
basically,
that?
So basically everybody that's in my like system of things that I need them to do some stuff, we're all on one basic group on one channel, right? So
Is
I
this
can
your team or your
it's
off?
like team of people, but they're all doing random stuff. They may not even know each other. Like I have an
Okay.
editor in
Might
another
be
country.
freelance people here
Right,
and
but
there.
then I'm talking to Joe over here, and then I have things to remind me that need to get done. It's all in Slack. So every time I'm like, "Oh crap, I got to do this." Go ahead and tell my tell my VA, remind me to do this. She goes ahead and makes it in the calendar so that way it's there. If I try to pull it out in the calendar and I'm trying to see with I can't see anymore. I'm
Right.
over 50. I have to wear these stupid glasses now. I can't see anything. So, but I can tell her on Slack, go ahead and put that on my calendar so I don't forget, you know? And, like all of that organizes all of the people that I speak to in a day. Even my husband's on my Slack.
So would you say, are you using it kind of for like project management, if you will?
Myself, managing
Managing yourself.
myself. Yeah,
Okay.
it's managing everything I need to do in a day, and throughout the
Okay.
week. So that way I get things done and I don't things don't fall through the wayside. I used to have a better brain than I do now. I don't know what happened in the last 4
A better
years, but
brain.
yeah, like my brain, it's like Swiss cheese. I never remember anything. Somebody told me about Slack and I was like, oh. And so as soon as I figured it out, I was like, oh my God, thank God. Like, because
Yeah.
it keeps me sane. And then the other simple tool that everybody has is so let's just say I'm in a random remote area showing land, right? I can't get on my Slack, even though I have the app on my phone, there's no internet. So just use your notes app and remind yourself. And then at the end of the day, before you go to bed, take all those things that were in that notes app that you put in there and stick it in Slack. So, yeah,
There you
or
go.
you let the people you need to know in Slack, those random things that
Yeah.
you need to get done.
Yeah. Really. Do you know the backstory on Slack, the company?
I know my husband told me this. It's part of what is that? It has to do with God, I forgot what he was calling it, but he does it for his job.
Well, the founding backstory of it, and I won't take too long, but it's fascinating. It's like 12 years ago, the gaming industry was starting to take off, and these two young entrepreneurs created this massive multiplayer online game called
Mhm.
Glitch. They spent like their life's work and savings into the creation of this game. They raised millions of dollars. One of their biggest investors was Accel Ventures, which is
Mhm.
a huge VC firm out of Silicon Valley. They've backed like Facebook, some of these other ones. Unfortunately, the game kind of lived up to its name. It was very glitchy. It
Mhm.
was a complete flop and had all kinds of problems, and they failed. They still had about 5 million bucks left over from the VC firm's initial investment. So these two dudes, these entrepreneurs, felt freaking terrible. So with their tails between their legs, they went back to the VC firm and they said, hey, sorry, we're going to be sending you back this 5 million that we have left over. Right. I mean, they were out. The VC firm was out a lot more than that, but whatever. Much to their surprise, the VC firm told them that we don't want your money back. The VC firm didn't, and this is what they told these guys with Glitch. They said,
Mhm.
we didn't invest in Glitch. They told these two young dudes that they invested in the team, in the people.
Mhm.
So they believed in these two young entrepreneurs. They said, keep the money, keep going, rock on. You're going to come up with something else. And then they pivoted. So during the creation of this glitch game, the one that flopped, that became a major flop, they had built this internal communication tool to help the entire team collaborate more effectively. They gave it a name at the time, and it was a collaboration app. It was called Searchable Log
Mhm.
of All Conversation and Knowledge.
Mhm.
And then they just shortened it to Slack.
Mhm.
It was such a fascinating story. I mean, these guys failed basically, and the VC firm was like, nope, here, go back. And it was pretty awesome.
So you want to know that YouTube almost failed too? Do you know what YouTube was before it started?
I don't.
And a little piece of trivia. YouTube used to be a dating website where
Dating?
yes. So people were supposed to upload a short video describing themselves. You remember the show Love Connection,
Yeah. Two and
right?
two.
Right. 2 and 2. Where
We'll be
did they
back in two
upload
and two.
those videos to?
To YouTube?
To YouTube.
Really?
Yeah. So that whole idea from YouTube was from that same idea from Love Connection
No
of
way.
you do a short clip of who you are as a person, right? And
I'll
but the whole
be
thing was is that people were like, I'm not uploading something about myself. I'm going to upload a cat video, and then it became really popular that people would just they weren't dating, they just wanted to see other people's cat videos, and
okay.
they were
That makes
like,
sense.
and they were like, so they followed their avatar that was watching their instead of being a dating website. Obviously, this wasn't clicking, but people wanted
Right.
to upload their cat videos. So how can we expand on that idea?
How
Uh,
funny.
yeah, so
How
YouTube used to be
funny.
a dating website.
That is hilarious. I did not know that.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
cool.
The
That's
students
cool.
learn that. Believe it or not, that's one of the we have a trivia question on our one of our
That's a great trivia question.
yeah,
I like that.
yeah, it used to be a
Okay,
dating
who's
website.
who's a must follow agent that you think others would benefit from following, either on
You know
social
that
or
though
YouTube or
that the whole thing is that it depends on your avatar. So you're going to be wasting your time if you're watching me and if you're watching me and you're a luxury real estate agent,
hmm.
please
Yeah.
don't watch me. That makes absolutely no sense.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, don't watch me. I'm not your avatar. I'm not your ideal client. I would say follow the agents that align with your ideal client.
Okay. Great. That's a great point. I've never
Uh-huh.
had anyone not say a specific agent or agents, but that's a great point. Is first go back and do your homework, that
Yes.
what you took me through, and then follow agents that are, more aligned more with that particular ideal client avatar.
You want to know a really big secret? Don't follow real estate
Yes.
agents at all. Follow big YouTubers that your ideal client watches. 'Cause they identify with them better.
Okay.
Those big YouTubers that they're watching get views for a reason,
They're doing
right?
something right.
They're doing something right. So follow what they're watching that aren't real estate agents, because there's
That's
no
some
real estate
secret
agents
sauce
that
right
are
there.
not, like, knocking it out of the park like that.
Great advice. That's some secret sauce.
Yes, it
Very, very
is.
cool. All right,
If they
friends. If
made it this far, they got it the good stuff at the end.
Yeah, yeah, no doubt, no doubt. And I mean, honestly, friends, if you're still sitting on the fence about video, go back, re-listen to this episode. I mean, Kristina just handed you a playbook that costs nothing, and for her, could be for you opening up doors while you sleep. Get that passive prospecting going. So go film something this week, and if you do, tag us. We would love to see it and know that this made an impact. Kristina, man, thank you so much for carving time out to collaborate with Cole, and I mean for opening up your playbook, for basically doing a free coaching session and sharing some of that secret sauce. I really appreciate you.
No problem. Thank you for having me.